Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to show you the process of composing a fugue. As we discussed in class, we were a little bit pressed for time at the end of the class period, so I wanted to make sure that you all have this information. I don't know if I specified, but I think I've decided that I would like you to compose a 3-voice fugue, and let me just show you that process. First, I'm going to take some melodic material that I am borrowing heavily from a gentleman by the name of Johann Sebastian Bach. I'm going to write this, and that's going to become the subject of my fugue. Now when I say the subject, you will recall that the subject is what the theme is called. Let's listen to this theme, this A theme of the fugue. We will henceforth refer to the A theme of the fugue as the subject. A fugue is known as a monothematic work, meaning it only has one theme. If you were to outline its form, it would basically be A with a few transitions and a few minor little contrasting episodes thrown in there. Episodes, we call them episodes because they're not big enough to be themes themselves. Okay, let's listen to this theme. Here's the A theme, the subject of the fugue. Okay, now if I were Bach, I might actually write a 3-voice fugue, and I might very well take that same subject and repeat it down an octave in a second voice. And then I might also take that exact same subject and repeat it down an octave. I have to transpose that down an octave in yet another voice. If I were writing a 4-voice fugue or a 5-voice fugue, I might continue to do the transposition into different octaves or even different keys sometimes. In fact, Bach was pretty commonly fond of having the statement of the subject of the fugue in the dominant key. Okay, once you have composed a subject, then the next thing that you're going to need to do is to compose a counter subject that could accompany that. And so voice 1 states the subject by itself. Voice 1 continues with a counter subject while voice 2 states the subject. And then you could use this exact same counter subject down here, once again maybe transposed by octaves. However, it was probably more common for Bach to write new counter subjects for his materials. Notice that he's written a counter subject for voice 1 and a counter subject for voice 2. Actually, I do have to tell you this is not the actual fugue of Bach. This is a hard adaptation. It's something that is very distant from the original. Okay, at any rate, now that we have our subject in voice 1, our subject in voice 2, and our subject in voice 3, now that we have a counter subject composed in voice 1, a different counter subject in voice 1, and a different counter subject in voice 2, we have now completed what we call the exposition of the fugue. Once all the voices have stated the subject, then you enter the development section of the fugue. Now the development section of the fugue first and foremost begins with some material that is not related to the subject. It's usually too short of a piece to really label this as a separate subject. Bach's actual subject here is like 4.5 measures long. I have created this fugue based on a 2-measure fragment of Bach's fugue. So this episode may seem a little bit long, but in the context, it's relatively short. In the context of Bach's actual fugue, it's relatively short. So I've begun my development section with something that's too short to be called a theme. We just have to call it an episode. And it's going to then take us back to another statement of the subject. Now, in this particular case, you'll notice that I have transposed this subject to to another key. This is now in the key of B flat major, whereas the original subjects, all 3, were in G minor. And now that I have written those subjects in B flat, I need some counter subjects to accompany that as well. I've got counter subject 1 and counter subject 2 up there. These may or may not be the same as any other counter subjects that were ever used. In fact, Bach was pretty commonly freely composing new counter subjects through the fugues. By the time we've had this statement of this subject, remember that monothematic repetition is going to get a little bit boring in a bit. We have to have yet another episode, and then in this particular case, what I think I would like to do is have yet another statement of the subject. Okay, I'll just copy that out and paste it in, and then once again 2 more counter subjects, and I'll copy those out and paste those in. These may be the same or they may be different. Actually, to tell you the truth, in my fugue, many of these are the same. In Bach's fugue, most of those would have been composed very drastically different. We are now at the on the last note, and so instead of ending on a G minor chord, by the way, this episode modulates back to G minor. We end it with a G minor statement of the episode. That's more or less the process for writing a fugue. The only thing that differs between this process of fugue writing and the fugue writing that Bach may have done is that the development section is typically a lot longer. Instead of just having 2 episodes and 2 statements of the subject, Bach would be more likely to have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 episodes, along with maybe 5 or 10 restatements of the subject as well. And also Bach would go a little further. All right, let's listen to my fugue. I'll call out each of the things that are happening as they are happening. This is more or less what I'm asking you to compose for our next assignment. And then after that, I'm going to give you a tour of Bach's Little Fugue in G minor. All right, here we go. Here's the subject in voice 1, subject in voice 2 with a counter melody in voice 1. Subject in voice 3, counter melodies in voice 1 and 2. Episode in the development. New subject in B flat major. 2 counter subjects. Episode. And final statement of the subject, and end on a Picardy third for a G major chord. Usually the final statement of the subject is very big and grand, and has all the stops pulled on the organ, and it's just as loud as it can be. And one of the other things that happens in the final statement of the subject is that very frequently the composer has actually written this so that it perhaps could be sung as a round with itself. That's called stretto, and so maybe after 2 beats it'll start the subject over, and after 2 more beats it'll start the subject over, and so the intensity is heightened by all of the increased rhythm and the combination of these subjects. Stretto is not a required element in a fugue, it is one that frequently occurs. Okay, this is going to be your assignment for this coming week. What I'd like you to do is to write the subject. Let's put it in 3 voices, and let's write a counter subject to accompany that, and 2 additional counter subjects to accompany that. And the good news is that's the point where your homework assignment is going to stop. You do not actually have to compose the episodes and the additional statements of the subjects that would be fairly typically found in a Bach fugue. Okay, I did say that I was going to give you a tour of a Bach fugue also, and so what I'd like to do now is just switch over to YouTube and let you hear the real Bach fugue in G minor. So here we begin with the subject in G minor. Transition to D minor. Subject in D minor. Transition to G minor, G minor subject, to D minor, subject in D minor, episode, new statement of the subject, transition, statement of the subject. Bach also is exploring different key centers, including the relative major. Transition, episode, statement of the subject in B flat major. Episode, transition, statement of the subject in G minor. Episode, transition, it's just a very long episode. Statement of the subject in G minor. Okay, that should give you an idea of what a fugue is like. You know what to do to compose for your fugue for homework. Thank you, guys.